while you're clapping, please make some noise for the City JS team for putting on such an amazing event. So please. And also keep going for yourselves, for coming out and supporting some dope stuff, community things. So, all right, so this is going to be pretty interactive, so I'm going to ask you all to say random noises at certain points, and so we'll just keep that going, all right? So today we're going to talk about React and web components, how it is, how it could be. So, and anything with the web, as we all know, it changes a lot. So I always get like new information. I'm always updating presentations. So this is as I understand it, of May 2022. Can't believe it's May already, right? This is, I don't know. Feels like it's been like the same year for the past 3 years, but it's getting better. You know what I'm saying? We're all coming out of our hidey holes. Hi, I'm Dwane. I'm a JavaScript developer advocate at Vonage. And if you haven't come by the booth and heard us talk about how we can make communications and making it real time for your applications, come by. And then if anything, you get these really cool like notebooks. And so come by, make sure you get one, because we don't want to take it back. So feel free to come by and take them. All right. So who's heard of web components? Like make noise if you heard of web components. Boo? Wait, so is that, why are you hating? Oh, well, it is a random noise. My fault for me. Okay. Who hasn't heard of web components? Oh, nice. Okay, so I've been kind of like, who's heard web components from me by talking over at the booth? Because it's been basically web components, web components, web components. Cool. All right. So now, if you've never heard of web components, have you ever wondered how just by putting like a video tag with a source on your web page, you get a fully working video player? I mean, you get a play button. You get like the what do you call it? Where you can see how long the duration of it. You can control the audio. You can make it full screen. All that with just the video tag and a source. Same thing with the actual like audio tag. And then this one here. Who has used the details tag? It's such like a hidden gem. It is kind of amazing. You get this whole thing like a drop down just out of the box. It's like details and summary. Kind of amazing. So if anything, just understand that details is great. So all of these are basically like examples of web components. But now, what if you could create your own web component, right? Anything that you ever wanted and dreamed of, you can make your own name. So like my awesome element, just amazing. So a little bit about me. I like to make websites, probably a little too much. I have like so many domains. Some people call it a problem. I call them learning opportunities. And so the thing was, with creating all those different websites, I like to have like about pages. And so they kind of talk about like why I did it, what technologies I used, and any updates to it. But having so many different projects and having to recreate it every time became like a chore to the point where I was like, I don't even want to create these things anymore, right? So what I did was I created a web component called Dwane-made. And so what it does is, so that's how it looks, minus the red arrows. And so what I do is, in the web component, in the application, I fetch from an endpoint that gives me all the data that I need. And then the web component, I pass it into the web component, and it knows like where to place it and how, like with the detail tags, and kind of just makes everything look the same, and it works great every time. I don't have to keep redoing it over and over again. I can focus on making the actual application that I wanted to do. So, how many people are fans of the humble input tag? It's like the best tag ever. Because just with like changing the type, you get an actual button, you get a checkbox. This one, the color, imagine trying to code that yourself. You get all of that just by changing the type attribute, right? It's amazing. Then another one, everybody knows like trying to do time on the internet is pretty terrible. And so you get like a fully working calendar and a date and a time picker. It's amazing. You get the range, radio, index, and you're able to also select files. All within one element. So it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. So along with that, some more projects I've created. So I was using time a lot. And so whether it was counting down to like a certain presentation or workshop, I always had to kind of redo it and always work with time zones, which are horrible. Hopefully the temporal API coming out will be able to fix a lot of that. But for right now, you got to work with what we have. And so, for example, I was able to use the same Dwane-timer. So anywhere you see like a date or a time, it's actually the same web component. And so I'm able to pass in an attribute where it's like a countdown starter or what have you. So I can say, if the time is in with an hour, we'll change it into an actual countdown timer. And that's like variable, so I can change it to whatever I want. Otherwise, it will show the time that I picked in your own local time zone. So you don't have to do any weird time zone math in your head. So anything where there's like a time or date is the same web component, which is kind of amazing. So this one here, just like how Sarah was talking about doing like 3D modeling on the web, I have a talk where I was like, I don't have time to learn Blender and do all these things. So luckily I came across Model Viewer. And all you do is you pass in, let me open up the web page here. So they upgraded that astronaut suit to be an actual scan. Anybody know about Neil Armstrong, like one of the first men on the moon? That's his actual spacesuit. And so with that, you can actually move it around. Now, see, even the reflection in there, there's shadows. It is kind of amazing. And to just get all that, it's kind of like a video player where you just have a little bit of JavaScript so that the actual browser knows what to do with this model-viewer, because that's not a regular element. The browser's gonna be like, well, what's this? Oh, I loaded this JavaScript. Now I know how to handle it. And so we have an alt tag. I know Kyle was kind of talking about accessibility, so you're able to actually add alt tags to your web components. And so then here's the source. It says the .glb. And what's cool is you have AR mode, which is great, because I've been a big fan of WebXR, which is augmented reality and virtual reality on the web, just using like web standards. And so just with that, you get a fully working just model. So you don't have to do any other sort of libraries or anything. It's just the model-viewer tag and a little bit of JavaScript. All the other like magic with the 3JS and all these other things is all contained with it, so you don't even have to worry about it. All right, so with that, I was like, you know what can I do with that? Because I think it's pretty cool. So I created a WebXR tic-tac-toe game with audio chat. And using a bunch of different Vonage APIs and things, I was able to create an augmented reality tic-tac-toe game. And so I'll just play a quick video of it. So as you can see here, I have one on my tablet, and so I'm able to move it around just like with the astronaut suit. And then I also have it in like the real world, in augmented reality right next to my van. And so I'm going to be able to make a move, and using the Vonage conversation API, I'm able to transmit and keep in like the same check the two different boards that are happening. And then I also added like audio, so you're also able to chat with the other person. And so it's kind of a way of being able to like communicate with folks. And so yeah, so that one. I have it deployed to xoxr.games if you want to give it a shot and give it a chance. All right. So I also created, because it's not just like fun times, I do it for work as well. And so at work at Vonage, I created a set of web components for our client SDK, and it's the client SDK UI web components. And so with that, with those, you're able to kind of create a chat room just by putting different tags within your application. Because we know that communication is not the main focus of your application. You have other things to worry about. So let us handle the actual real-time communication, because that's what we do. You work on what your actual application does as a whole. And so you can see here, this section here where the actual text is, that's just VC messages. Where the members of the conversation show up is the VC members. Where you type in the actual input for the chat and the send button is right there, VC text input. And then we have like a typing indicator. You can use any of these, don't use them, what have you, place them wherever you want in your DOM, because it's just regular like HTML elements to the browser. You just load some JavaScript so it knows what to do. Each element knows exactly what to listen for, what events to send, and it just does it on its own. Kind of like with the model viewer, all the logic is inside there. You don't have to worry about it. You just send in the conversation you want to keep track of, and it handles everything else for you. So I also created this VC keypad because another, like I was saying with the Swiss knife metaphor, is that you can use a keypad for a lot of different things. So we're going to show a little bit later. I used it as a dialer for like an actual application where you can call a phone number or what have you and have a conversation from your browser to somebody on the actual phone. Let's say you wanted to enter like a keypad for like a passcode. You can do it for that as well. Even you can change the keys and take some keys out and turn it into like a actual like gamepad. And you move a little character around and change the enter to like a pew or something. You know what I mean? So it's super customizable. And so built it using OpenWC, which is a CLI tool, and it will scaffold the actual web component for you. All the folders where everything needs to be, it does that for you. So if you're on a large team, you don't want people just putting folders all over the place. So everybody starts off at the same place. So if you're looking at somebody else's web component, you know where everything should be, and should all just be like understandable, which is cool. And then I'm using Lit as like the rendering engine, and it's like a super small, like 5 kilobyte rendering engine. And they're doing a lot of things. They're working on like server-side rendering as well with web components. So a lot of cool stuff happening. And so you can see here I have different properties and attributes that you can pass into it to kind of customize it. So you can customize the placeholder, whatever shows up like in the input. Oh, and this is actually a web component here, so I just put it in my slide. The keys, you can change those to wherever you want. This is the action text. There's a cancel text if there's an action started. And then if you don't want the asterisk or the hash, what do you call that? The hashtag, £, what do you all call that? You don't have a word for it? It's just kind of like just a symbol? You're like that thing? Hash, all right. And then if you want to get rid of the actual input. All right, so you may be asking, are web components a thing yet? Thanks to the internet, it's an actual website. And so I just learned about this as well. So shouts to Westbrook Dre on Twitter. He let me know about it. And so the answer is yes. Simple. Now, we're going to do an exercise, and so we're going to see some companies that use web components. And every time you see a company that you recognize, just say ding. All right? So give me a test run. Anybody else? Anybody gonna ding? Okay, fine. We'll see how it goes. All right. Ready? Here we go. And I know Wordle was brought up earlier. So, do you think web components are a thing yet? All right, so if all these companies are using it, it must be a thing. So we're going to look at some other examples. For example, YouTube. I think it's like the second largest like search engine. If you look at the source of it, you'll start to notice all these like YT-rich-grid-row. Those aren't like normal components. So that's a way of kind of like recognizing, oh, they're using web components when they're like strange things. So YouTube's full of it, in more than one ways. GitHub. GitHub actually has a library. So you know when you push a change or what have you, there's like the 2 months ago or like last month. Those are actual web components. Because again, working with time on the internet is pain. And so they actually have like their own library called time elements that you can use and that they use themselves on their own projects. So that's pretty cool there. So now, what about browser support? Yeah, it's looking good. So pretty much any major modern browser, you're good to go. And I have the source. You can go to webcomponents.org for that. So now, how it is. So there's a site called Custom Elements Everywhere. And their motto is to make sure that web component, like custom elements and frameworks can be BFFs. That's literally what it says on the site. And pretty much almost every other framework is green. It's only React that has an issue. And so, thing is, that's how it is. But how it could be is having a full support for web components in React. Now, how many people know that there was an actual experimental branch of React? And that's why I'm doing this talk. And so I want to kind of bring attention to that so that everybody kind of knows. And so I want to hopefully come across with how cool web components are, how they can benefit you, and then what you can do to actually kind of like guide the maintainers to like, hey, this is a thing that we like and we want and would like to see in the next version. So that's pretty much the whole purpose here. So if I did that, that would be great. All right, so now some benefits of full support. So I want some people to think of the maintainers, because a lot of times these folks are actually taking the time out of it. How many maintainers do we have of like different open source projects? See, yeah, you're all the real heroes, because a lot of times you're doing these things, you're not getting paid for them, and you're taking the time out of your actual life to be able to work these things. And so with me, I'm not doing that. Even with the projects I get paid for, with me, you're going to get like a pretty detailed GitHub repo where you can actually see examples, what everything does. I have diagrams. I have things that explain things. It's so it's pretty fully functioned, pretty fully supported and featured. You also get like blog posts from me. So I will actually show you how to put a web component in your React application. And so this is, so we created like, it's called, I like funny names. So this is like the React Rolodex. And so it's where you like can make phone calls from your React application, and it's pretty cool. All right. So, and plus you can always reach me on Twitter, lifelong dev. And then we have community channels. So we have like our Advantage Dev Twitter channel. We have a community Slack, which is pretty cool. So if you ever have any questions or anything, just stop by. We will help you out with that. And then also I do workshops. So shout out to anybody that's checked out any of my workshops. Did one Monday. And so pretty much just talking about web components, because again, web components, web components, web components. Now, an actual person that cares is Corey LaVisca. And this person, has anybody ever heard of the Shoelace like UI library? It's pretty sweet. Like he has some really cool like UI components. And so you can check it out at shoelace.style. And on the website, it says it's a forward-thinking library of web components. And so it works with all the frameworks, works with CDNs, fully customizable with CSS. We're going to look at some CSS stuff later. Includes a dark theme. Cool. And it's built with accessibility. So shouts to Kyle earlier was talking about accessibility. And so the thing I noticed was the first class React support. And I was like, wow. So not only do you support like just regular web components, you also have to maintain a whole separate library just for React. And so I kind of asked, I was like, how does that feel? Like how does that work for you? And Corey, being a super cool guy, is like, nah, I'm fine with it. I basically built it. It's already done. But on the website, you see that, all right, React, Shoelace offers a React version of every component to provide an idiomatic experience for React users. You can easily toggle between HTML and React examples throughout the documentation. But then you see Angular and Vue, basically the same thing. Plays nice with custom elements, so you can use Shoelace in your Angular/Vue apps with ease. Literally just copy and paste. But React has like its own whole thing. All right, so I asked, like, what are some issues that I've run into? And he said that actually the biggest gripe that they have is having to maintain 2 different examples for each demo in the docs. So now imagine you create something and then you have to go through and basically double your work every time you want to improve on something on your free time, not getting paid. Terrible. So hopefully you can think of the maintainers and just kind of remember them, and just when you want this full support of web components in React, think of Corey. All right, but also think of yourself. Imagine being able to use any UI components that all of these other frameworks take advantage of. So it opens you to a whole new world of different elements and things that you can use in your own applications. So, because like right now, it almost seems like this, where web components are like almost there, but React has you jumping through hoops just to be able to like use it. And we're going to take a look at some examples. By the way, I'm going to do that as like an NFT, so if anybody wants to purchase, I'm joking, but anybody? All right, cool. All right, see me afterwards. All right. I take, what is it, Luna and Terra. That's good, right? That's cool, right? That should be good. All right, never mind. Inside joke. So, how it is. So let's take a look at the stack. Shout out to Stack Blitz. I'm going to use them to check this out. So, since web components are basically any sort of type of actual regular element, you can see like you have to get a reference to it. So this is using hooks. In the actual blog, I talk about class and then the functional and everything. So now this is going to use like the latest React 18 basically. And so you have to get a reference to the keypad. So you're using useRef hook. Then, this one. So then to set up all the different event listeners and things that the web component understands, you have to use useEffect. And then you have to return like the remove event listener so that it all works. And then in your actual return statement, you use it just as normally as you would. So, but the thing is, here, so I have it actually like working. So basically the same thing, I'm just importing the web component. I have another web component here, like it's the contact list, not important for this talk. And so you can see you have to do the set state here, use state, and then you get the reference to them all, the use effect. So you can see it's kind of a lot of stuff, and you're handling all the different actions, and then you have like the keypad element here. Kind of a lot to do, right? So that's how it is. How it could be. That is it. So let's take a look at the stack blitz. And so if you look at the previous one, you see that you're not able to handle, because the thing why React doesn't do so well with web components is pretty much the two main things that are important when dealing with web components. The way you pass in the data and the way you handle the events that are coming out of the web component. React doesn't do too well with that. React, when you pass in data, it's basically like all strings. So it's cool if you want to just send in, like I have the action text call and the cancel text hang up. That's cool. But if I wanted to change like the actual keys, which are like an array of strings, well, React's going to turn that into just strings of the array elements. And then, if you ever try to put in like an object, you're going to get object. They're like the worst thing ever. That's just not helpful at all. So there's ways around it. It just sucks. And so there's that. And then React, the way it handles events, it has its own like synthetic events for some reason. I don't know why, but I mean, these are people that are much smarter than me and they get paid more than me. So I'm just going to, we work around those things. We're not meant to understand. And so there's ways around that as well, but it sucks. So, but now the way it could be, since in the new experimental version, basically React let web components be web components. And so you notice you don't need to get a reference to the keypad anymore. Other elements, sure, but they're not web components though. And so then you're still handling all the different actions and all those things. But the actual keypad now is that what's cool is now it handles the events as you send it through. So it does like camel case, kebab case, kebab because Greek, awesome. Also like snake case, pretty much all the cases it handles, which is amazing. Pascal case, all of the cases. And now you just do it directly. No more use effect because we trust the web component to do what it does. And so you don't have to worry about it anymore. Great stuff. So now, knowing all that, I'm going to need your reaction. So how it could be? How it is? No, it's not good. That's the whole point. How it is. How it could be. How it is. How it is. All right, cool. You keep paying attention. So yeah, so remember that feeling when you go and talk. Don't be mean to the maintainers, because again, we care about maintainers. But it's like, hey, I think this thing is cool. Please forward along with this. All right, and now, also future-proofing. How many people remember trying to get reference to things? Just in version like 16, there was like 3 different ways to be able to get reference to things. Who remembers this? This is a terrible time, right? Now, if we're just trusting the web component to do what the web component does, you never have to worry about that, right? So remember, that's pretty awesome. Now, what about styling them, right? Because, I mean, it's cool that you get this whole thing and you put in your application, but we want it to look like a part of the application, right? So let's talk about styling. Anybody, Tribe Called Quest, anybody get that, like, reference? No, it's cool, it's fine. I'm in a whole other country, it doesn't even make sense, it's fine. I didn't expect anything. But there's 2 like main ways of being able to style your web components. And I know you're going to be talking about styling at some point coming up. So looking forward to that. So we have CSS custom properties and part. Part is super cool. So now let's talk about CSS custom properties. Let's say in your web component that you have a button, the mighty, mighty button, and it says click me. Let's say you want to style that outside, inside you have this background color, CSS variables or custom properties right there. That's the var hyphen my element hyphen button color. And the default is red. So in your application, you have the root, and you can set that variable to what you want, and that will travel into your web component to change it to that color, which is cool. But now let's say you wanted to change the actual font color. Well, then you would have to put color, var, hyphen, my element hyphen color, font color, and then another color. But let's say you want to change the size of the font in your web component. Well, then you're going to need like font size, colon, var, hyphen, my element button, font size, the font size. Border radius, because border radius is cool. So you have to do that. If you want to change the size of the border radius or change it at all, you have to add that. So you can kind of see where you would have to think of everything that the user would want to be able to change and do a CSS variable for it, which again would be a pain. Unless you only want them to change certain things, then that might be the cool thing. But I'm like, let the web be weird, do what you want. And that's where part comes in, colon, part. And I have links to the MDN and a blog post from, her name is like, I think Monica? And her like website is Meowika or something. Cool person. They kind of talk about like the whole history of how we got here. So it's a nice like read. And so let's again, you have the button, but this time you're assigning it a name called button because it's a button. You can put whatever you want. You can put George. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want, it could be there. And as long as we're now in your actual application, you put in the custom element name, colon, part, and the name of the part that we have button there. And you just, whatever CSS that you can do to an actual button, you can put in there, and you're good to go. So you don't have to worry about actual doing, because again, it's just a regular element. So same way you do CSS, you just have to add the part so you know which part of it to actually apply the CSS to. Cool stuff. So let's take a quick look. So this is the same client SDK UI web component where you enter in the text and send the button. So we're going to take a look. So that's how it looks out the box. Kind of nice. I'm not a CSS master or anything, but that's all right. Not too bad. Now, if you want to actually make it look cool, there we go. I don't know why you would do it, but hey, you could. I'm not going to judge. And so, good to go. So again, you can change it however you want it to look. Then this is the actual, like the members list again. So let's comment that out. So you can see that it's just VC member. That's what it's called, members. The part, the UL, because it's the UL. I just like to name things as they are, just my own sanity. And so you can see I added some random things here. We have the part, the actual LI, the list elements, the list items, did that. Now the thing was, certain things you can't do with part yet. I'm not sure why, but like the different the different rows, I wasn't able to like name them because it would have been like VC members, parts, UL, parts, LI, whatever, odd or something. And so I had to use the CSS variables for that. And so you can use them together, which is cool. Now, here's that same web component, the VC keypad that we looked at earlier. And so you see just the regular one here. But I wanted to, let's say, again, if I wanted to have, it's going to load. So yeah, so you can see now I have like a little keypad element where I can for a controller for maybe like a web game or something like Asteroids or something. And all that with just the same web component, just adding some styles to it. And yeah, so that's that. Cool. I think that's pretty much it. So we all here at CityJS Athens because we believe in the web, right? So I am once again asking that you believe in web components. Anybody get that? That meme? Anybody? Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure. And so now, I created this really quick website. Again, I buy random domain names, and I found webcomponents.in was available. So webcomponents.in React for real. And so that takes you to the actual like GitHub message board where they're discussing these web components. So if you think it's cool, let them know that you think it's cool and you like to see it in the next version of it. My website is lifelong.dev. And if you want to check out, I've written like a whole list and like a blog series where I take you from creating a web component to use it in an Angular, Vue.js, and actually React. I'm working on Svelte because Svelte is awesome, but I'm going to be working on some more things, and so there's that. And with that, thank you all. Oh, what's up? Oh, nice. Word. Well, actually, in a couple of seconds, we're going to have another one coming up. Anybody? Anybody? Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, so let's go back to. You want to take pictures? That's the first time everybody's ever asked. Like I go back and to take a picture. That's kind of cool. I appreciate you. So everybody got the picture? We're good. All right. So again, thank you very much, and come see us if you want to get one of these cool things. And oh, real quick, shout out to Athens, Angular Athens, and Vue.js Athens for the meetup. It was amazing. So support your local like community things. Conferences are cool, but like actual like local meetups are super awesome as well. So thank you all once again for hanging out. Y'all be easy.